At any point, if you have questions about whatever I'm talking about or about something else, ask them, okay? I don't care. I'm not gonna pass judgment on anybody. I'm pretty laid back, and like he said, I wanna give you guys as much information as possible so we can all have a better understanding of how all this stuff works and why it works the way it does. So yeah, Fourth Amendment. What does that protect the citizens against? Anybody know? Oh, all the other classes knew exactly, word for word.
And that's the honors class. Come on, guys.
Oh, man. I'm just kidding. Nobody had a clue. Well, they kind of had a clue, but not 100%. So, the Fourth Amendment protects the citizens from the government, and in most cases, that government representative is the police. From the government doing unreasonable searches or seizures. Okay, the protection from unreasonable search and seizures, the Fourth Amendment. So, what that means is you are protected from the government coming in and searching you or your property or seizing you or your property. And your property is pretty broad. It can be your pockets, your bags, your car, your house, the land that you live on, whatever. Whatever you own, whatever you possess, that's your property. And we can search or seize it. And seizing it means I take custody of whatever it is. You, the individual, can be seized, but we typically call that being placed under arrest. I am arresting you, I'm seizing you. And to do that, it can't be unreasonable. So we have to have probable cause to make that arrest or seize that property or search that property or search that person. We have to have probable cause. And probable cause is defined as a belief of 51% or greater probability that that person has committed a crime, is about to commit a crime, or is in the act of committing a crime. 51% or higher. So I can't just act on a hunch, which is all the way down here at the bottom. Basically no grounds, no evidence of anything. I just have a feeling that something's going on. This person is up to no good. I can't act on that. I can't arrest somebody or seize or search anything. Now I can still contact that person. I can stop them in the street because they just give me a feeling that they're up to no good and see if they want to talk to me to where I can develop probable cause, maybe. But if they want nothing to do with me, I can't force them to have communication with me, that contact, if they are good to go. So yeah, I'm at probable cause. That's where I have to operate. And I have to operate underneath the color of the law. So what the law says, I have to do. And I can't let my feelings or my emotions interject into that to cause me to do other things. I can't, just because a person makes me mad, I can't arrest them. You made me mad, I'm arresting you. It doesn't work that way. I have to have probable cause. You make me mad, I'm going to search your bag. No, can't do that. You're protected from that. That's unreasonable. Okay? I have to have probable cause to do that. Now, with probable cause, I have to have evidence believing that that person has committed a crime, is committing a crime, or is about to. And there's some exceptions to that. Well, you guys have heard, we have to have a warrant to come in my apartment, or you have to have a warrant to come in my house, or search my car, or whatever. All about this warrant. And yes, that's right. Okay, we have to have a warrant, but there's some exceptions to that. There's times in which we do not need a warrant, and we can come into a house, or we can search a car, or whatever. We don't have to have a warrant 100% of the time. There's some exceptions to that. So if I have consent, if I ask somebody, can I search your car? And they say yes, well, I don't have to have a warrant and I can search that car. Same thing with the house. If I have consent, I don't have to have a warrant. I can search that car or that house. More times than not, consent is going to come into play on a traffic stop. When an officer pulls a car over, we walk up to the window. Hi, I'm Officer Slayton, Gladstone Police Department. I stopped you for speeding. Can I have your driver's license and insurance, please? And we'll take those documents, go back to the car, run them, make sure everything's good. Maybe we write the ticket, maybe we don't. We come back up to the window, and then we give back the documents and then say, may I search your vehicle? And sometimes we just ask, just to see what they're going to say. We have no probable cause at all, we just ask. And that person, if they say, no, you can't search my car. If we don't have probable cause and they say no, they don't give me permission to search, then they are free to go. We can't search that car. Okay, now if they say, yes, you can search my car, we don't have probable cause, but now we have consent. They've allowed us to search that car, so we get them out of the vehicle and we search. Now there's also, if we don't have probable cause and we get consent, that consenting person could tell us that, yes, you can search my car, but I don't want you searching the trunk. Well, we have to honor that. Okay, if we don't have probable cause, we have to honor that. And we can search the whole car except the trunk. Cannot search it because that's the ground rules that they put out. Okay, now while searching, if I find something in the car, then all bets are off, and I'm going to search that trunk because now I have probable cause. I have evidence of a crime that I found, so now I can search that trunk. Okay, because maybe they thought that they put their dope in the trunk, and they forgot that they had a little bit underneath the front seat, and I found it. Well, now I own that car. I'm going to search the whole car. While the officer is searching that car, if they haven't developed probable cause, and they aren't going to tell the person when they do that, but I'm just trying to lay the groundwork here. If I'm searching, I'm not finding anything, then all of a sudden the driver of that car says, Officer, I don't want you searching anymore. I'm done. I got to go. If I haven't found anything, I have to honor that because now that person is revoking their consent. They're saying, I did give you permission, but I changed my mind. I don't want you to do it anymore. I have to back out and I'm done. But if I found something and they say, listen, I don't want you searching anymore. I'm done with this. I want to go. No, sorry, you're stuck here because look what I found. Explain this to me. Whatever it is. Weed, meth, whatever. Explain this to me. So I own that car now. So one exception is consent. We don't need a search warrant if we're given permission from the driver of the vehicle, the homeowner, the whatever. Or if I stop you in the street and say, hey, can I search you? And you go, yeah, sure. Then I don't need a warrant there. I can just do it because I got consent. Another level, or another area of exception to that, I don't need a search warrant if the contraband is in plain view. So again, with a traffic stop, pull a car over, go up and do my stuff, and as I'm talking to them, I can see the baggie of weed sitting on the passenger seat. They got nervous when they got pulled over and they forgot to take that bag and put it under the seat, whatever. I can see it sitting there. Well, I don't need a search warrant. I pull them out and I search that car because it was in plain view. The contraband was there. And so that's an exception, is it's in plain view. Same thing applies for if I smell something. Okay, because when I pull over a car, I'm using all five senses. I'm trying to figure out, what do I see, what do I hear, what are they saying, what's going on, what do I smell, everything. If I smell the odor of intoxicants coming from that vehicle, so like alcohol, if it smells like alcohol in there, that gives me probable cause to extend the length of the stop and start doing an investigation to see if I've got a DUI. If I smell the odor of marijuana coming from the car, then I ask the driver, that gives me probable cause to search. So what I do is I ask the driver to step out, or I ask all the occupants to step out, and then we go around talking to the occupants. And while we're doing that, we're smelling the person too, which is kind of weird. But the reason we do that, we're talking with them up close, so we can determine if that odor of marijuana or the odor of alcohol is coming from the person. Because if I pull the driver of the car, let's say there's only one person in the car, just the driver, and it smells like weed. I pull the driver out, have him stand in front of my police car. And as I'm talking to them, explaining what's going on, I'm smelling them. If I don't smell marijuana coming from them, well, it's most likely in the car somewhere, because I smelt it when I was at the car. But if I'm standing there talking to them and they smell like weed, then I go back up to the car, I smell again. Nope, doesn't smell like weed anymore. It's probably on them, because that's where the odor is coming from. So I can search them. Okay, and if I find something, then I can search the car. That's how that works. So that's in plain view. Something I can see, something I can smell, that leads me to believe that there's criminal activity going on. I've got consent, plain view. The third one that more times than not affects us in a house is exigent circumstances. That means that there's an emergency going on and I have to enter in this house, this apartment, whatever, without a search warrant. The times that we have this happen the most, and it doesn't happen very often, but the times it happens the most is I get an apartment and an upstairs or whatever, a neighbor calls and says, hey, my downstairs neighbor must be smoking weed again. It smells like pot up here. Can you go and talk with them? So, okay, so we go to the apartment. We go to the door. We can smell it because it fills up the whole freaking building. We can smell it coming from the apartment. And we'll put our ear to the door and we just listen for a little bit. Before we even knock, we just listen. And while standing there, if we don't hear anything, we just knock on the door. Okay, and then we talk to whoever answers and we try to figure out what's going on. If we do hear something, let's say we hear sounds of a disturbance, sounds like a fight's going on in there, I've got yelling and screaming, sounds like stuff's getting thrown, and we're hearing somebody yell, help, I need help, don't do that, put the gun away, you're hurting me, whatever the case is. Sounds like an emergency's going on in there, and I need to get in there to potentially save this person. I don't need a warrant. I can kick that door, force entry, and get in there to resolve that situation. Now once I'm in there, if I look around, I get everyone safe and secure. I get the ambulance if I need, whatever's going on, and I start looking around and there's just mountains of dope everywhere and I can see everything out in plain view. Well, I didn't need a search warrant. I got into that apartment to save this person, and once in there I discovered this contraband, then I'm good. I didn't need a search warrant for that. Okay, because of an emergency, I had to get in there. Now when we type that up in a report, we have to be extremely specific. Because if I lie about all of this stuff, if I put false information in my report, and it comes to find out, because we're wearing body cameras and there's dash cameras and there's cameras everywhere, come to find out that I lied, I can be held criminally responsible for that. I could go to criminal trial for that, and I could go to civil trial for that. So the criminal trial has the potential to put me in jail. Okay? There's jail or fines associated with criminal trials. So it has the potential to do that to me. The civil trial would have the potential of taking my house and my car and all my bank accounts and wiping everything clean, where I have nothing. I don't have a house, I don't have cars, I don't have anything. So, I have to make my decisions very, very wisely. I have to follow the law exactly, because if I don't, then I can lose everything that I have, and I can go to prison for violating somebody's rights. So when we do something, we do it right, so that we don't have that happen. So we have to follow the law, just like everyone else does. But those are 3 exceptions. We don't need a search warrant if we have consent. We do not need a search warrant if it's in plain view. And we do not need a search warrant if there's exigent circumstances. But if I don't have those things, then I need a search warrant. I need an arrest warrant. Okay? There's times we go to apartments because or a house, for that matter, doesn't matter. A neighbor calls and says, hey, I heard a fight going on, husband and wife are yelling and screaming, and I saw the husband push the wife, whatever. There's a fight going on. Well, we get there, knock on the door. Husband answers the door and says, nothing's going on here, you guys need to leave. I'm going inside, whether he wants it or not, because I need to verify the safety of the other person involved. And we get some folks that get very upset about that. You can't come in here, you don't have a warrant. Go, well, sir, you're about to go in handcuffs. I'm going in that house. Because I need to verify, I am obligated to make sure that that person, the other person, is safe. Anybody else in the house is safe from whatever was going on. I'm not going in to search to try to find something other than people to make sure they're safe.
I think that's one area that we're not always clear about.
Yeah.
When you show up for a visit like that, when there's a concern, I think that people don't understand that it leads to probable cause. There's reason to believe that somebody might be
Yes.
at risk.
Yep, yeah, and I have to verify their safety. And when we go in, we are not looking for anything other than the safety of that person. Now, we get in there and there's stuff that we just can't ignore. There's, a brick of marijuana sitting on the couch and the coffee table as we walk by. We're going to see that, and we have to take action because of that. But our intent, our reason to get inside that is to verify and validate the safety of those inside. So we find those people, make sure they're safe, get their story, figure out what's going on, talk to everybody, and then we can handle whatever else later. But we get a lot of resistance. We've had to fight people because they won't let us in the apartment to make sure that their significant other or whatever, their family members, aren't just dead. We get a call that, hey, these people are fighting and they're pushing and shoving and hitting, and we know that they know there's guns in there, so we need to make sure that that person's not dead inside. They're not injured inside. They don't need an ambulance. We have to. We're required by the law to go in and do that. One role of a police officer, yes, I'm supposed to uphold the law and make sure everyone else is upholding the law and all that stuff. But one job is the community caretaker. That's what it's called. So I have to make sure that the community is okay. Those within the community are okay. I'm required to go in and make sure. So
I think something that these guys might encounter at some point in their lives, especially as they're 16, 17, 18, somebody might call 911 and then hang up.
Yep.
And then when the cops show up, they don't answer the door. So
Yep.
as community caretaker, would that be an obligation that if you had a 911 call hang up, or you heard voices that sound like straying, or somebody called and said, I heard my neighbors yelling, help, help, and then somebody shows up at the door, but they're afraid to answer the door, where does that put you?
That puts us in a tough spot. So we get 911 hang-up calls all the time. More times than not, it's somebody trying to dial 913 and somehow, the area code for Kansas, but somehow they dial 911 instead. They just hit the wrong button. and they'll hang up. Well, when the dispatcher then calls back to try to get information, they don't answer, they don't nothing. More times than not, it's because after they realize what they did, they hang up and they pick up and they dial 913 and the phone number, whatever, and then they're on the phone and they're talking to whoever. So they don't pick up when the dispatcher calls back. Now there's times that we get a 911 call and we hear yelling, or the dispatcher hears yelling in the background, screaming, sounds of a disturbance in the background. But nobody really talks to them directly. We don't get any information, we don't, nothing. Well, if it's a landline, it tells us exactly what house it's coming from. If it's a cell phone, then it pings that area and we get within a 3-meter radius of where that cell phone is. So we have a pretty good idea of where it's coming from. We go up and we knock on the door. If we don't get an answer, we get more officers there, and we have officers checking with neighbors. Hey, have you seen these people that live here? Do you know them? What's their history like? What are they doing? We check all our call history to figure out what's going on. We try calling them back. We try all this stuff. We've got officers looking in windows, trying to see what's going on. If we don't hear anything, then we have to try to check all the boxes to make sure that we are good to leave. The minute we hear something or we get information that leads us to believe that somebody may be inside that needs our help, then we start working on how to get in. And it could be that we, depending on the situation, that we have to kick in that door and force entry. So it's all circumstantial. It just depends on what's going on, what level we're at. Sometimes we walk away, we've got nothing. Sometimes we force entry. Sometimes we're able to get a key. You know, we might call a family member or something that lives nearby, comes over and open, you know, so we've got a lot of options there. Oh, I forgot to talk with the last class, but I guess we probably wouldn't have had time, but, so you guys you've got rights, 4th Amendment, government can't search you, and by golly, they're gonna have a warrant every time they do, right? Because that's what YouTube says. But how many of you guys have ever gotten on an airplane before? Gotten on one before? Yeah? Well, how come you guys are okay with giving up your rights then? You were okay with them violating your rights? Anybody? Or you got, nobody's rights were violated? No? A talkative bunch.
Yeah.
So, when you went to the airport, they searched you, right? They searched your bags. You stand in the x-ray machine and they do that. You put your bag on the conveyor, they search it. If they want, they can grab that bag, open it up, dig through all your stuff, mess up your awesome packing job, and never have a warrant to do so. But everyone is okay with that. Isn't that a violation of your 4th Amendment rights? That the government will not search you without a warrant? No, it's not. Well, why are we all okay with that search? But not when the fuzz lights you up and wants to search. What if I just walked up and said, you walked into the school today and I'm searching your bag, just because you're at the school. That's what they do at the airport, that's okay.
What do you guys think about that? Is that fair?
Nobody wants to answer? Oh, you do? Okay.
When you're at the airport and you have your bags, like, you know they're gonna search you and you know why. Like, you know why they're gonna search you and stuff.
Yeah?
So, like, you already know what's gonna happen.
Okay.
Some
Well-
people come there willingly knowing.
So you just willingly shed those rights because I'm at the airport and I really want to go on this trip wherever I'm going. I value that more than my rights at the moment. Okay. A lot of folks say that it is because the safety of everybody on the airplane, and I'm okay with them looking through my stuff because that means they're looking through everybody's stuff, and maybe they'll find somebody that has something bad that wants to cause harm to me. Right? On the airplane. Okay. And I think that's how that works, is you're willingly going to this airport, you're doing it, signing off saying, I know that I'm gonna be searched on whatever, and we all accept that. Now, pre 9/11, that sort of stuff didn't happen. I could get to the airport 10 minutes before my flight, walk on, just get on an airplane, nobody cared. 9/11 happened, now we gotta get there, 3 days before, and you gotta go through all this stuff, and I can't go get a coffee because then I gotta go through my 5 hours of security again, at our airport anyways.
And leave your coffee behind.
Yeah, and you can't take your coffee on the airplane because that coffee that the barista just made might have explosives in it, so you can't bring it on the airplane. But that all changed after 9/11. Now we're just okay with it. That's the norm. Okay, but what about border security? I don't know if anybody here has crossed the border, either from US to Mexico, or I guess from Mexico to the US, or from Canada to the US. But there, they search you without a warrant, without anything. They search you, they search your car, your property, or whatever. And we're all okay with that. And the belief there is we're all okay with that because we don't want a bad person coming into the United States that's got this contraband, that has this stuff that's gonna cause harm to people. Can we not apply that same logic? The answer to this is no, by the way. Can we not apply that same logic to police officers? Well, the police officer, when he pulls over a car, he should be able to search any car he wants for any reason, because they might have something bad on them that could cause harm to everybody else. So I shouldn't need a reason. I should just be able to search all cars, all people, just because I want to. Like I said, the answer to that's no, we shouldn't do that. Fourth Amendment protects you from that. You shouldn't let the cops search you whenever they want, just because they want to. They need to have a reason to do so. You can say no when the police ask if they can search. Now, if they have probable cause, they're going to search anyways, but you can say no. If they don't have probable cause and you say no, you're on your way, going wherever you want. So the cop pulls you over, says, can I search your car? Nope. They go, okay. And most people say, I'm not going to say that. That sounds suspicious. That's weird. Then they're going to think I'm up to no good. But that goes back to the officers have to act what the law says, and the law is very clear on what they can and can't do. Just because I feel like you should have said yes, you should have let me in, I think it's weird. If I have no evidence of anything going on, I have no probable cause, there's nothing I can do about it. Right? I'll tell you a quick story about how consent, a guy gave me consent and it sent him to prison. He made a lot of bad choices, and then he didn't know his rights, so he ended up in prison because of it. So this was when I was working in Columbia, Missouri. It's a college town. This college kid calls and says he'd just been robbed, armed robbery, gun in his face, and they took his money. That's a big deal. That's scary. So we fly down there as quick as we can. There was a number of us that were just right around the corner. He gives an awesome description of the suspect's vehicle and the suspects themselves. So we think, since we're just a couple seconds out, we're probably going to find these people. The apartment complex has one way in and one way out. We are likely going to find these suspects, so we're pretty excited. Well, we get there, seconds after the call, and nothing. We don't see the suspects. We don't see these people anywhere. Don't see the car, nothing. So we go talk to our victim, the guy that called us. And my partner was talking to him, getting information. I was just standing there listening. And as this kid was telling his story, the more he got into it, the less it made sense. And his story kept changing. So I interjected. I said, listen, your story's not making a whole lot of sense here, bud. It seems to me what you're saying is a lie. And if I were to guess, I think that you were supposed to meet these people, you were gonna give them drugs, and they were gonna give you money. But what they did is they showed up and pointed a gun at you and took the drugs and didn't give you the money. I think that's what happened. And he stares at me and goes, my roommates sell drugs. And I said, what? That, I was not expecting that. I was expecting him to say, no, that's not at all what happened. No, they took my money and they took my stuff, and nope, that's not what happened. His response, which made absolutely no sense, was, my roommates sell drugs. And I said, okay, all right, well, what kind of drugs do they sell? And he says, well, they just sell weed. I said, okay, that's not a big deal. Is there any weed here? Do you guys have any more? And he goes, yeah, there's a little bit. I said, oh, okay, that's not a big deal then. How about this? You give me the weed, I write you a ticket, and we're done. We leave, you stay here, go about your day, go to court, it's not that big of a deal. And he says, okay, yeah, come on up to the apartment. Well, his roommates weren't there. It was just him. He had 2 roommates, but they weren't there. They were at class. We get up to the apartment. He says, come on inside. Oh, okay, cool. So I'm getting consent this whole time. And I walk inside. You walk right into the kitchen and the living room area. And off to the right is the 2 bedrooms of his roommates. And then to the left was his bedroom. And I'm looking around the living room and the kitchen. And I see on all the ledges, like the window seals and the dresser, the tables and stuff in the living room, there was bongs and pipes and all kinds of paraphernalia all over the place. And then on the kitchen table was set up kind of like a little assembly line with saran wrap and rubber bands and plastic baggies and stuff for packaging all his drugs. And I don't say anything to him. I'm just looking at all this going, holy cow, this guy just walked me into this? You got to be kidding me. And he says, well, come back to my room. That's where I got it all. And I thought, what? I thought this was your roommates that were selling drugs, and now you're inviting me to your room because that's where you have it all. Okay, whatever. I kept my mouth shut, and I follow him back to his room. And we get in his room, and there's more bongs, more paraphernalia, more stuff everywhere. And he grabs a gallon Ziploc baggie full of cocaine, and he hands it to me. And then a quart-size Ziploc baggie full of Xanax pills. He says, here's my pills. And then 2-gallon Ziploc baggies full of weed. He says, and here's my weed. There you go. So now I've got all these drugs, and I'm thinking, what just happened? He was supposed to give me a little bit of weed. Now, the term little bit, I guess, is relative. In my mind, I thought a little bit was maybe a baggie of it, something small. But maybe in his mind, maybe he sells a lot of weed. So maybe his mind, a little bit is 2-gallon Ziploc bags. But he hands me all this stuff, and I'm looking at it going, holy cow, this kid is in a world of hurt right now. And he asks me, well, officer, how do we handle this ticket? How does this ticket work? Do you just mail it to me, or do I come down to the car and you write it out, or how does this ticket work? And I said, I'm sorry, bud, but we're beyond a ticket. You just handed me all of this. I can't write a ticket for this. And he gets emotional, and I say, you're under arrest. I set his drugs down and handcuffs and get him on him. I'm walking him down the stairs, and he's all upset. We get to the car, and he goes, am I going to jail? Do I have to go to jail? Yes, sir, you do. The handcuffs, now you're in the police car. That means jail. That's how that works. And you handed me felonies. I can't ignore felonies. It's illegal for me to ignore felonies. so I can't do that. And he says, well, how do you think this is gonna impact my internship I have this summer at NASA? How's that gonna work? This kid his degree was some big long thing, but he was a rocket scientist is what it was. The name of it was huge, but he was a rocket scientist. He was gonna go work for NASA. And I said, well, I don't make a decision for NASA. I don't talk to them ever. But I could imagine that they won't like somebody who has a felony for cocaine, a felony for pills, and a felony for the quantity of weed, and then a felony for distribution charges, plus all kinds of misdemeanor charges going on right now. I can't see that they would take that lightly, but that's up to you, I don't know. And he gets emotional, so I shut the door and haul him off to jail. But me getting in that apartment was consent. He invited me in. He invited me back to his room, and then he handed me all his dope. If he would have simply said no, then there's nothing I can do. I was there because he claims that he got robbed. There's nothing I could do. If I would have said, hey, can we go up to the apartment? Nope. Okay, cool. Well, here's your report number for the robbery, and we're out of here. We're leaving. That would have been it. He could have went to NASA and, I don't know, flown spaceships or something, whatever you do. But instead, he went to jail because he didn't know his rights. He didn't know how to say no, and when you can and when you can't. So I think that's why conversations like this are important. I think having open dialogue between you guys and me or the police department, whatever it is important, so that you guys know your rights and you don't find yourself in a whole lot of trouble. Ultimately, it starts with making good decisions, responsible, safe decisions, but knowing your rights helps.
You guys understand that? It's not a bad thing to know that you have the right to privacy. And I think to frame the context of going to the airport, we give up some personal freedoms for social freedoms. The difference between Riley driving down the street with guns in her car and then getting on a plane with guns is the difference between her personal freedom to own a firearm and the social freedom that we have, that we're on a box that's flying through the air at a high speed, and then she pulls out a gun and goes, well, I have a right. Oops.
Yep.
And that social freedom that we can trust in each other mask is social freedom. We give up the personal freedom to have to show off our faces for a social freedom of better health, hopefully. So we talked about that. And he very much wants you to understand from the law enforcement perspective, his job is to take bad people on the street. And the problem is, most people he encounters are gonna be people who might have an issue, but he has a fundamental belief in the US Constitution, and you need to understand as well as he does. It's better if both of you know the same rules. What questions have you got for him at this point?
Yeah, anything, yeah.
Back to like I forgot what they're called, the traffic stops.
Yep.
When do y'all make the decision to call like the K-9 dogs to smell the?
So that's a pretty broad answer. It all depends. So if it's somebody that we've dealt with before, that we know typically has drugs, or if it's a car that's coming from a drug house, then usually right when we call out the traffic stop, we tell them to contact to get a K-9 unit coming. And sometimes K-9 units are available to help, and sometimes they're not. But it just depends. Now, if I get up there, I haven't called the K-9 yet, I just do a traffic stop. I get up to the car and it smells like weed in the car. I've got probable cause to search that car. Once I get that probable cause, I might get on the radio and ask for a K-9 unit to come. I get the driver put back in my car, and I'm searching, and I ask for the K-9 unit to come up there so that when I'm done searching, the K-9 can go around the car and see if I missed anything. So it just depends. So,
And be very, very clear, if you did not catch on, at some point you days off, it's Thursday, this is your weekend instead of being your week. What does it mean for probable cause? What does that actually look like to an officer? What do you think probable cause looks like? Cause my Monday, Tuesday kids thought, well, if he has a hunch, if he just thinks we look guilty, that's enough to be probable cause. I think at first off, you did a really good explanation of all the paperwork that goes into that hunch or that probable cause, that having the hill that you have to get over. And I think in this class, you kind of walked up to it, but I don't think they quite grasped it. What does it look like when you pull someone over? Where's that threshold that you have to meet before you can say, look, I'm taking it to the next level?
So when I stop a car, it can, like I said, I have to see or smell something to get me over that. And there's different things that we can see in a car that would lead me to believe that there might be something going on in there, criminal in nature. The easiest example to use is narcotics, because that's probably one of the more common things. But as I'm looking in that car, if I see stuff that is common with narcotics use, and even some stuff that maybe you guys wouldn't consider, like the cotton swabs for your ears, people use those for drugs. The makeup remover pads, as long as they don't have makeup on them, like a girl would use, that's an indication of narcotics. Straws, pins that have all the ink and stuff taken out of it, narcotics, spoons, just all kinds of stuff, narcotics. So I might see all that and start to develop, I might see that stuff and start to think, okay, well, this guy probably has something to do with narcotics. Then I start talking to them, and the way that they look, the way they carry themselves, how they talk, all of that gives me little puzzle pieces. I can start saying, okay, well, I saw the Q-tips in there, and I saw the spoon. I didn't see any needles or anything. I saw little baggies, and then the pitting of the person's skin, they just look like they've got pits all over their skin, usually on their arms or on their face. And then the way that they're talking, the way that they're acting, their eyes are all shifty and all over the place, and their pupils are dilated. I start getting all these clues, and it helps build that probable cause. So at any point, once I determine it, and it's hard to explain because every case is different, and I get different things from different people, but once I get enough to believe that I'm at 51% or greater of believing that this person is up to no good, has committed this crime, then I can take action. I can make the arrest or whatever. If I'm not there, then I have to dig deeper and find it. But I have to do it all in a reasonable nature. I can't extend the length of the stop to an unreasonable amount of time so I can try to find something. I can't do anything like that. So it all has to be reasonable. Is there?
And one thing you mentioned earlier, and you may have missed it, is he's not, even when he finds stuff, you're not convicted of anything.
No.
All he's doing is collecting evidence and holding you, even when you're under arrest. He's got evidence, but that still has nothing to do with the courts. You know, he mentioned earlier with Columbia, it's not up to me, it's up to the judge. The judge is the one who sentences you. I'm just the guy that saw it.
Yeah, so I after we make the arrest, I'll type up my report and submit all my evidence, and all of that goes to the prosecutor and the judge, and then they determine if somebody is guilty of something. All my job is to identify that crime is likely happening, 51% or greater. Okay, it doesn't have to be 100% nail in the coffin, got it. It's 51% or greater. If I can prove that that person is likely committing a crime, then I can make the arrest. I can search their stuff. I can seize their stuff, whatever. And then I take all of that and put it up in this nice little package, wrap it up real nice, and set it on the prosecutor's desk. The prosecutor reviews it, and if he thinks, or she thinks that, yeah, I think the officer met the threshold, I think all of this makes sense, what he wrote is a violation of the law, and so we'll give it to a judge. And then the judge reviews it, and the judge is the one that determines guilty or innocent. The police have nothing to do with that. All the police do is say, there's a likelihood that this person committed a crime, here's my evidence, here's my witness statements, here's my whatever. Then we give it to the judge, and the judge decides. That there's a lot of people in the country that are upset with the police, saying it's the police's fault for so much going on. Well, if you really drill it down, if you understand how government works, all the police do is they get that 51%, type up the report, send it to the judge. And the judge is the one that incarcerates people, puts fines on people. They're the ones that do all that, the judicial branch. The courts do that stuff. And you even go back to the Ferguson stuff in Ferguson, Missouri, Michael Brown and all that. That community, Ferguson, Missouri, was boiling already. They had a bad relationship with their community leaders, their city government. And when you look at the courts there, the courts had set fine amounts so high, the courts had set jail sentences and stuff so high that it harmed a lot of people. But it's easier to, well, the police are the ones that arrested me, so it's the police that did it.
Become the face of it.
Yeah, the police become the face of the issue, when the issue is typically, unless it's a bad cop, is typically that judge or the court, the prosecutor. The prosecutors and the judges are the ones that issue that stuff, and all the police do is we make the arrest. So yeah, it comes down to the courts and the prosecutors' offices. So if you want massive change, then when you guys are of voting age and you get to do that, then get judges out, figure out who are the good judges and the bad judges, get the bad ones out, and prosecutors, same thing. Get them out, get good people in. And that would help fix a whole lot.
I wanna make sure that you guys understand, when he's having probable cause, he's gotta prove, and he said this early on, but I wanna come back to it. His job is on the line. It's not his opinion, it's the facts that he can prove to someone else who's looking over his shoulder.
Yeah,
He's gonna
100%
prove to
fact.
people outside, not his buddy. Hey buddy, you got my back. This is not, I know TV gets this idea that the reality is when he types up a report, there's a lot of hoops he has to jump through. There's a lot of stuff he has to put fact. Not, well, I think, fact. Here's what I saw, here's what I witnessed, here's what I smelled. He's got tons of training in smelling and seeing and observing. It's not about opinion. It's not about you look guilty. It's about the facts of the case.
Yeah,
how
what
you
I can
react.
prove, because if I put false information in there, I'm liable for that. Like I said, I can go to prison for lying, I can lose my house, lose my cars, lose everything that I've worked hard to get, could be gone if I wanna play games like that. And so, no, we follow the law as it's written, clearly. And we can't deviate from that. And everything is based on facts. Like you said, here's what I saw, here's what these witnesses said, and here's what I found, here's how I got to here. And our reports are very detailed. It is, on this date at this time, I observed this car operating on a public roadway in this 100 block of this street. I observed this violation which is in violation of City of Gladstone ordinance number whatever, or State of Missouri statute number this. This is what the vehicle did. I initiated the traffic stop at this location by activating my emergency equipment. made contact with the driver, later identified as so-and-so. I mean, it's very, the way that we write, it's short, brief sentences that it's, I went from this fact to this fact to this fact to this fact, and it's never, I was driving down about this place and I kind of felt like doing a stop and I saw this car that, you know, I really don't like Jeeps, and so I kind of thought I'd stop this Jeep because I wanted to, and I searched it because I wanted to. It can't do that. It has to be very specific, very factual in nature, so that we can lay the groundwork of what we did and why we did it and how we did not violate anybody's rights.
Make sense? What questions you guys got for them about anything other than?
About anything, the job, about what, it doesn't matter. I don't care. It could be Fourth Amendment stuff, it could be anything.
Oh, come on. You guys are so quiet today.
Oh, surely you got a question.
Riley, what you got? What's been pressing on your mind? You guys, what have you been thinking about? What's been?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me see your videos on YouTube whenever people be getting pulled over or something, and the police officer asks for like their license and registration or whatever,
Yep,
and they don't give it to them.
yep.
Should you do that, or?
No, so the law states that if you're stopped by a police officer, you are required to provide identification. You're also required to follow lawful commands. So if I give you a command to show me your driver's license, you are required to follow that lawful command. I'm not commanding you to speed, which is unlawful. I'm commanding you to give me your driver's license and give me your proof of insurance. You're required to have that, and required to show it. Failure to do so just adds another charge on you. And failure to cooperate in that stuff doesn't make the police officer want to cut anybody a break, you know. So when we stop a car, we have what's called discretion. I can stop a car for speeding, and then when I run the license plates, find out that the license plates are expired. And then when I go up and talk to the driver, I found out that their driver's license is expired, and their insurance card, they don't have insurance with them. They claim that they have insurance, they just don't have the card with them. Well, right there, I've got 4, 5 violations. And maybe I only write them 1 ticket. Maybe I only write them, 3 out of the 5. So there's discretion with that. And the more that driver cooperates, the more likely, I can't ever say it's guaranteed, but the more likely that officer is willing to work with somebody. Like if I have that, I might give the person the no insurance ticket, because if they actually have insurance, they can take the insurance to court with the ticket and say, look, here's my ticket, I was stopped on this date, here's my insurance saying I had insurance on that date, and they'll dismiss it. Well, I know that, and so I'll tell people, hey, instead of giving you these 5 tickets, I'm going to give you this 1, but here's how you get rid of it. Here's how you make it go away, because you've been cool with me. Now, if they want to be a jerk, and they don't want to roll, they only want to crack the window, and they don't want to give me their stuff, or they just want to hold their ID against the glass or whatever, you're probably going to get more tickets. But you are required to identify yourself, and passengers are required to identify themselves. So the more that it's fought, the more the officer's just going to get things to write tickets for. But we will find out. We've got people that refuse to identify themselves. We get them out of the car. They still refuse. They won't do it. So we detain them until we can figure out who they are. And we'll handcuff them. And we've got fingerprint readers in our cars. So I just grab their finger, put it on the fingerprint reader, plug it into the computer, and it pops up, tells me who they are. So if they want to play games like that, then they can sit, I'll take them, instead of just giving them a ticket roadside, then we'll tow their car and we'll take them to jail and make them post bond on whatever offense that we have them for. So it just, being difficult makes life difficult.
We got time for like one more quick question. Anybody? Oh man. Ladies and gentlemen, when you start driving, you're gonna, I hope, you have an SRO come back and talk to you, because it's suddenly gonna become very real to you. You're gonna have a lot more interactions as you get older. I don't think youth get as much involvement, when it comes to encountering police when you're a driver. And the encounter can be very scary for both of you. On both ends, both for the officer, as Officer Slayton mentioned, but also for you with those red and blue lights. Come on,
Yeah, it's stressful.
it's stressful on both ends. So stop, think about it, he's in the building, he's got a school email address. If you got questions that pop up, if you got comments, and again, he's not sitting here going, wait, why are you asking this question, making me suspicious? You know, any more than anybody else would be.
Go ahead.
So, we're gonna let him get down, because we got about 20 seconds left of class. But I hope you guys took away something, I hope you learned something, and feel free to reach out to
Yeah, I
him
can
as
do
we
that.
go. Okay? Anything else, last call? All right, see you guys. See you tomorrow.
Yeah, stop by if you ever have questions or anything.
He's hanging out
Or
in the
just-
library, guys.
Just holler. You see me in the hall, you need something.
Mr. Benish,
Yeah,
can I please see Alyssa Stovall in the office?
yep,
Thank you.
yep.
They were just calling me to take a kid to the Sage Center,